So, Mortal Kombat 11 recently came out and my friend bought it for the PlayStation 4, so we were having a few games of it together. Now, I must preface this by saying I have never played a Mortal Kombat game before. Like, I understand everything is done for the fighting game genre and for video games as a whole, but the few matches I played against my friend were the first of any Mortal Kombat game I've ever played. Now, I'm not saying I should have been equal to him even though I've never played the game before, but each match was so heavily in his favour that I just felt like there was no way I could ever beat him other than sitting down and actively learning the game's mechanics and combos and whatnot. So while we were playing the game together, I was kind of feeling a bit dissatisfied by the gameplay and how heavily it favoured my friend who had played it more than me. So then that got me thinking, and it got us discussing about this game versus Smash Bros Ultimate, which has also just came out, and how despite both games are being classed as fighting games, they both take such wildly different approaches to the genre that it got us talking about which does it better. And so that's the topic of this video, Mortal Kombat 11 versus Smash Bros Ultimate. Which video game gives a better fighting game experience? I think any game with a competitive aspect to it must be judged on three factors: how welcoming it is to new players, how well it does to train new players, and does it satisfy its veteran audience. So I'll tackle each of these subjects in the perspective of both games. With Smash Ultimate, it feels like introducing new players to the game was a core idea that was almost beaten into everybody that was involved in making the game. If you were to pick up the sticks for the first time ever and play it, it just feels so open and spacious and you can do whatever the frick you like, just have fun. The way I visualise it is like this food pyramid, except there's no food and it's just a pyramid. The base is to represent newcomers, showing that it's a wide and welcoming game for newcomers, but as you go up the skill brackets it gets smaller to represent how progress is made in the game. But in the case of Mortal Kombat 11, in my opinion anyway, it does a particularly bad job in introducing newcomers to the game. As soon as you enter into a game, regardless of whether it's against a human or a computer, it just feels claustrophobic. There's an air of urgency, almost that feels like everything you do has to be perfect. Every input needs to be perfect or else you're literally going to get your skull caved in or some shit, I don't know. The way I visualise this is more like a ladder formula, where it doesn't really welcome in new players, it puts all of its effort into rewarding people who are dedicated to sitting down and learning the combos and inputs for their favourite characters for what could be hours on end. I want to just bring back up those two graphics, but this time for a slightly different reason. See, I've added two black bars onto the Smash Bros graphic because the way I see it, the game separates its skill levels quite like this. So anybody below those black bars would have more or less an equal chance of winning a game if they were to play against each other, and the same goes for the two classes above the black bars. I've been playing the game for quite a little while now, but I could still easily get my ass kicked by some friends who only ever play the game when we meet up to do so. Whereas in the Mortal Kombat graphic, the black bars represent more or less the same thing. It feels like if you've only played like an hour or more than your opponent, it 100% shows in the match and you'll find yourself like literally mopping the floor with them until they get better. The black bars in that graphic are far stricter and it just feels like you can really only play against people in your exact skill level if you want a fair game, and if you play above or below, you'll either get your ass kicked or get perfects without even trying. The second point to be judged on is how well does it train new players, and honestly I have to give this point to Mortal Kombat. I don't know about older games in the franchise, but this one has a dedicated training place where you can study some super advanced techniques like frame data, while still all being underneath the control of a tutorial. If you're a newcomer to the game and you're committed to sticking with it, it does a great job with all of its tutorials and in-game character guides to bring you up to speed. The key word in that sentence is committed. It doesn't do a great job in making you want to play more. It feels like you have no other option other than to sit down and learn these things, and for some people that's perfectly fine. That's what they paid the $70 or whatever for. Just in my personal experience, having never played the game before, I don't feel committed to sitting down and learning these characters and inputs. But if I was to do so, I am positive that the in-game tutorials would bring me up to speed. Smash Bros on the other hand really does not do this. Like, yeah, you can go into practice mode and slow the game down to one frame at a time if you really want to study the frame data, but that's something that you must do on your own accord, and the game doesn't tell you about it whatsoever. Many people might not actually be aware that you can do that, but in Mortal Kombat it's literally featured in one of its menus alongside the character guides, which is something that Smash Bros is missing out on big time. If I ever want to learn a new character, I don't even have to give it a second thought. I'm just straight off to YouTube and typing in whatever the character's name is with guide afterwards to get what I need. But with Mortal Kombat, it's all just right there in front of me. And personally, I think that's a better idea because having one built into the game, in my opinion, is better than watching some guy's YouTube video, because you're playing the game as you're learning rather than having to watch a video and then trying to replicate what this guy did or said to do. And then the last point, does it satisfy its veteran audience? In the case of Smash Ultimate, simply by looking at how well all of the Melee gods and Smash 4 Elite players are talking about it on Twitter and are streaming about it and whatever, I would say that it does an amazing job in serving its longtime fans. As for Mortal Kombat, well, the game just came out, so it's kinda tough to tell, but I will be keeping my eye on it and my eye on Twitter to see what people think. As of right now, it's getting some pretty good reviews online, so I suppose the results are yet to be seen in that front. So basically, what's the point of this video? I suppose it's an attempt to put to rest any debates about which game is better or which formula is better, because simply there just isn't one. Each game caters to an entirely different audience, and if you don't like what one formula does, that doesn't mean that the other formula is bad. It just means that you like your specific formula so much that you can't really see why people like the other formula. It's the same for me. I adore Smash Bros. And I adore every game in the series. I don't like Mortal Kombat and don't like Street Fighter or Capcom vs Marvel or whatever. I don't like those type of games. That's not to say that those games are bad. It simply just means that I like the formula of Smash Bros more than I like the opposing formula. Plus, if anything, a diverse spectrum of fighting games with unique mechanics and takes on the genre is an amazing thing to have. If every game classed as a fighting game was the exact same, quite like how every Guitar Hero and Rock Band were the exact same, the genre would just become oversaturated and eventually die. Quite like how Rock Band and Guitar Hero did to rhythm-based games. Well, that's all I have to say about this matter. This was just a very quick, short video to get rid of something that's been bugging my mind for the past couple of days. And it's very different to anything we've featured on this channel so far. So if you like this new type of video, please be sure to let us know in the comments or leave a like or subscribe, because each of them will help very much. And if you have any suggestions for topics I could discuss like this in the future, please also be sure to let us know in the comments, because I really like making these type of videos, and if you like listening to them, well then it's a win-win. Well, until next time, I've been SSBA Olympics signing out. Peace.